the storm on the ocean is the rain downtown. The sun shines somewhere when the night comes down. The moon's still dancing when the sky turns blue. And the love I'm feeling is the love in you. One heart, one mind, one love is with us all the time.
Please join me in prayer. And let's just let go of everything outside of this moment right now. And breathe into this space, into the idea of being present now, here, in this moment. Listening with open hearts to ideas and thoughts that can motivate us and move us throughout the week. Let us just be present. And in this place of presentness, we recognize, we know, and we affirm that there is one power, that there is a God that is greater than anything we have ever known. The power within it supports us, guides us, leads us in whatever it is we choose as we allow it. And knowing that this power is here, knowing this power is present, we can rest assured it is always with us, always surrounding us, always filling us. Many people struggle. Many people are hurt. Many people are in pain right now. And let us just breathe in the very idea that none of us, no one of us is alone, for Spirit is present. And we can just ease into that knowingness, into that truth. And so I call this time blessed. I call this day blessed. I call it perfect. And I allow it to be. And I simply affirm all of this by embedding it, enmeshing it into the mind, into the one mind, knowing it's good, knowing it's already done. And so it is. So as I mentioned in the prayer, we are one mind. And today's talk title is One Mind, Infinite Connections. One mind, infinite connections. And so what we know to be true about this is that in that place of connectedness, in connection with one another, there are so many things that we have, that we do, that we are, that are alike. We have so many similarities, so many things that we can build on, so many things we can build relationship on. And to know that we are of one mind means that there is that connection that's kind of at a deeper level than maybe we had considered before. And so I want to talk about the infinite connections for a moment, because many of us are still feeling so isolated. Many people everywhere are feeling challenged by the reality outside the front door that says we should stay home, we should wear a mask, we should wash our hands more, we should be cautious and conscientious of who we interact with and how we interact. But yet we have infinite connections. There are so many people in our lives. We carry them in our hearts. And so what I encourage you to do today and this week is to pay attention to those connections. Pay attention to that love space, because that is a huge support for each of us. Ernest Holmes says it this way: we are to view ourselves each in the other and behold God in all. When we realize love as the great harmony, then we shall sing the praise of God. When we realize love as the great harmony. And this phrase in here, to view ourselves each in the other. What would happen if you just for a day decided to look into the eyes of the people you come in contact with, whatever the situation or circumstances is, and every time you did, you saw God there. You saw Spirit, you saw a power, you saw a presence, you saw something within that other person that helped you feel connected. What would happen to that interaction? What would happen to how we conduct ourselves with one another throughout the day? I talk from time to time about Rev Jenn, and he wrote the book Love is Letting Go of Fear. And in his book, he talks about, he was a therapist, and so he had people that he worked with from all walks of life. And he worked with people that had emotional and mental challenges, and he worked with people who were of the criminal sort, if you want to call it that. And he walked into his office one day, and there sat a man, dirty, disgruntled, long hair. It was obvious to Dr. Jampolsky the man had not bathed in a while. He could smell an odor in the room. And he did some self-talk because he knew that if he was focusing on all of these conditions about this man, he would not be able to help him. And so what he decided to do was he decided to walk towards the man and to look him in the eyes and to connect with that being inside that says we are the same, we are not so different. And he just took a few moments to just look into the eyes of this man. And everything else that had been in his awareness up until that moment melted away. He no longer smelled anything. He no longer had that wonderful thing called a brain making judgments about who this guy was and where has he been and why hasn't he bathed. All of that disappeared. And he was able to sit down in the presence of this man and truly support him from love, from heart, from that connectedness. We are all God-centered spiritual beings. There is a power. Call it what you will, but it exists, and it is within each and every one of us. So, how can we stay aligned with that? How can we stay in tune to that truth and not get out there all kittywampus on somebody who didn't act right or somebody who went to the grocery store and didn't wear their mask on? And by the way, yes, I did. Walked in the grocery store a couple of weeks ago, never even thought about it. Didn't have my mask on. I don't know what was going on. I was in the store probably 10 minutes. And I'm shopping and I'm doing my thing and I'm thinking, something felt really good about being in King Soopers that day. I don't know what. And I walked around the corner and a man looked at me, and at that moment, the awareness of what I had done for 11 months hit me, that I was not wearing my mask. And I immediately grabbed my face and I said, oh my gosh. And I dug in my purse and I pulled out a mask and I put it on. And I felt a little silly. But no one accosted me. No one was rude or cruel to me because for that moment I wasn't mindful, which I've taught you about a lot. I wasn't present. I'd forgotten. It happens. So when we look at that context, that idea of just looking into the eyes of another and seeing the God within, that can not only move us to that place of more peacefulness, but that can move us to a place of healing, which is what this planet is calling us for today. I had a friend years ago who had a man in her life who had a teenage daughter, and the teenage daughter was creative and challenging, and I don't know, some may use a word like obnoxious, I don't know. But my friend came to me and said that she was certain this young lady was evil, that there was something evil in her. Now, we don't believe in the idea of evil because there would be power in that, and since God is the only power, there is no evil. There are behaviors that aren't acceptable, but there's no energy, no presence that can come in and take someone over. And so one of the things why I'm sharing this with you is we want to be very conscious of how we use the terminology to label something or label someone or label a behavior. There's a lot going on in this country today, and there are a lot of fingers being pointed at one another, at leadership, at ex-leaders. It's just unbelievable. And the truth is, there is no evil. There is misalignment. There is separation, where we ourselves attempt to separate ourselves from that spirit, that power within. God didn't go anywhere. God's always here. So we want to be aware of that and just be conscientious of that. Every religion and spiritual path is in some way connected. It's like we're all part of a river, and that river flows everywhere. Like that journey I was talking about before, and we're on the different paths, and we're all a part of it. And there is no separation. There's only connection and connectedness, provided we are willing and open to embrace that idea and to look at that. Holmes teaches us that we are all of the one mind, that there is one mind. And many of us have those synchronous situations and scenarios that happen where you are thinking about someone and the phone rings and it's them, or you consider someone that you haven't known for a long time and you get a request from Facebook, or you run into them in a public event or something. And it's almost like, wow, I just thought of this and then it happened. Well, if you believe that we're of the one mind, then even this wonderful organ up here that's constantly working, constantly functioning, is connected in the one concept. We are also taught that the law, which orchestrates through prayer and everything else, is not a respecter of persons. So that any one of us, whoever we are, we can pray and get results. You don't have to do it exactly this way, and you don't have to perform a certain way, but it works for all of us, because the law doesn't say that only the blue-eyed blonde people get results. Never has said that. Ernest Holmes says this: in moments of deepest realization, the great mystics have sensed that one life flows through all, and that all are some part of that life. One life flows through all. So ask the question of yourself, what am I doing to block my good? Because perhaps it is living in that place of criticism and judgment and labeling of the behavior of others. Perhaps it is not going into the heart space and living that place of love and openness and acceptance and forgiveness, and knowing that that individual obviously just forgot to put their mask on. And we go into these places where we get upset and we react to what's going on. And then we start to act out, which is never appropriate and never has a great result. So pay attention to that. What are we doing that could be blocking our good and our expression? When we teach our children in this philosophy, in Science of Mind, there is a little prayer that we teach them. And it's very simple. There is no spot where God is not. There's no spot where God is not. So we have the ability to tap in to that being, to that preciousness, to have that connection that we strive for, that we look for. Forgiveness is an important piece, because like I've spoken before, those attachments that get in our way, those things that we're holding on to the past with, a lot of times that has to do with, how can I forgive? How can I move into that place of forgiveness so that I can let this go? And for the past month and a half, almost 2 months now, I get up every morning and the first question I ask is, what or who do I need to forgive today? What has been going on in my world that I've missed something, that I'm carrying around? I'm carrying this grudge, I'm carrying this ill will, this ill feeling, and I need to forgive. Now, forgiveness doesn't mean that you then call them on the phone and you make dinner plans and you spend a lot of time with them, because maybe that person doesn't fit in your world that way. Forgiveness is releasing those attachments in your heart. In the book of Matthew, in the New Testament Bible, is this scripture: Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like unto it: Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I think many of us who grew up in any type of religious concept remember being taught this Bible scripture. I remember it as a little girl. And the key focus was always on love the Lord thy God. But the second part of the focus was on, and love others as we love ourselves. I worked in corporate America one time, and we were creating these core values for our business, and we wanted to use the word respect. And someone said, well, how can we define respect? And one of the vice presidents in the room said, well, what we can do is we can tell everybody to respect others as you would want to be respected. And immediately another gentleman spoke up, and he said, what if they never been taught that? And it was such an eye-opening process in that moment to think that we were ready to put this disclaimer out there that said, just treat everybody like you want to be treated. And then we realized there were a whole lot of people on the planet that don't know how they want to be treated, never learned how to treat themselves with love, kindness, joy. So let's take time with that this week. Let's take time. I'm always reminding you to take more time to love yourself, to live in that space of lovingness, and then to allow that to just overflow to the rest of the world. And let us not hold on to it or attach ourselves to an outcome or to a condition or to a situation or a circumstance. Let us just observe it and know the truth that we are connected to the infinite. We are connected in the infinite. We are connected to one another, and we are of one mind. Because when we look at the concept that we're all in this together, when we look at the idea that we are all moving through this together, then we begin to find solutions for that instead of ways to tear it down and tear it apart. Let us do that this week. I believe that brings us to a place of service. That brings us to a place of community where we are all considering one another at the same time. Please join me in prayer. And so what I know right here and right now is I know that God is present. I know that very power that I'm always talking about, that very truth, that being, that energy is here now. And I know that my mind is connected in the mind of God. Each one of us is of the one mind. And because of this, we can recognize that we are here together having this wonderful experience to bring happiness, to bring love, to bring harmony and balance to ourselves, to one another, to planet Earth. How beautiful is that? How perfect is that? And so what I know this week is that each one of us has the ability to tap into that knowingness, to that connection that we share with one another, and to be able to recognize and realize that we are of the one mind, so that when something comes up and we are challenged, we can just sit back, take a deep breath, and allow it to move through us and give us the answers. We don't have to beat our heads against the wall and work it out. Spirit is here present, supporting us in that process, bringing it to solution. And so today I bless all people everywhere. I bless those who have been hungry, may they be fed. Those who have been cold or challenged by the weather, may they have clothing and may they have shelter. And as we walk through this life and as we do the work that we are called to do, may we support all people everywhere, regardless of race, regardless of color, regardless of religious beliefs, regardless of political beliefs. May we bring this together in these wonderful connections that we have here in this life. So I just let it go. I turn it over to the power. I turn it over to the law of mind, knowing that when I speak my word, when any of us speaks our word, Spirit responds with a resonant yes. Yes. I call it good. I call it done. And so it is.